Scholars, welcome back to the Counselor's Office. I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor, and we are back with some more, talking about Destiny. That's right. We've actually got some things to talk about with Destiny. I think this is more like, Destiny has a lot of problems, right? And I feel like we should start dissecting some of these problems and maybe start thinking about what can be done to actually fix these problems. And I think one of the glaring issues, there's a lot of issues with Destiny right now. And a lot of people are thinking that Destiny's on maintenance mode because the marathon, which is probably true, but also because rumor that we're getting Destiny 3. I'm not putting a lot of stock in that. I just think that Bungie is focusing heavily on marathon, and Destiny 2 is being treated like an ugly stepchild right now. That's my thoughts. Let me know what you think. But currently, one of the issues is loot. And let's look. This is an article that came out literally last month, but I still kept on to it. Oops, that is an old chat log. Get that off the screen. Thank you. Yeah, this is, even the webcam is a little out of focus too. This is something that I myself have complained about, is that loot kind of feels pointless. And it really does. It feels pointless when you think about it. Well, especially the tier system. I think the tier system for weapons was the biggest mistake. If crafting was bad for, let's just say, if crafting was bad for veterans, I think tiered loot is even worse. I think I'd rather go back to crafting than tiered loot, because at least with crafting, we still had adepts and we had more chase going on than the problem that we have with everything just raining on us and not giving a shit. I know that's gonna piss people off, but let's be honest. I'm fixing this, by the way. Let's be honest. The population is the lowest it's been, even lower than it dips into the part where it's even lower than Edge of Fate. Yeah, if you look at popularity report, you can compare Edge of Fate and Renegades, and we're either at the same point or it goes below Edge of Fate. So the idea that this system is good, it's great for casuals, no one's fucking playing this game. So this needs to be for the casuals. I'm sorry, who gives a fuck? This game has got nothing going on it. We need to make some changes, because let's be honest, there's casuals that will still play regardless of what the system is, but your veterans, your diehard people that actually care about this game have already fucking left, because, and a big chunk of it is because of the tier system. But let's see what Paul had to say about it, right? After being accused of being too stingy of loot in this current phase of Destiny 2, with too much grinding required to acquire tier 5s, the new premium, a hyper power crept version of weapons and armor. I don't know about hyper power crept. I'm gonna say this, maybe for armor, for sure, for stats. But when it comes to weapons, you could use a tier 3 and be fine. Like, this whole concept that tier 5s are power crept is just a fallacy. It's just a fallacy. And the biggest problem is that loot is just thrown at you. Like, and that's another thing. Like, we'll talk about it more. I will give you what I think should replace the tier system. Power crept versions of weapons and armor. Bungie sort of said screw it and opened the floodgates. In some ways, that's great, as who doesn't want good gear, but also painted them in a corner now, and I'm not sure how they could get out without making a huge mess. We're already seeing that unfold in the game now. By not upping the power cap or resetting power for Renegades, which had felt exhausting for players, everyone stayed where they were. Namely, if you hit even 450 out of 550, you were getting loads of tier 5 loot. If you weren't there, Bungie had buffed power gains, so you'd be able to race there with any minimal effort. I've always been tempted to do a fresh account because you automatically get buffed to 300, I believe now. So 300 to 450 to get tier 5s. Like, That's 150 levels. How long would that take to grind out? But I just don't care to do that. Like, I got on to do the new arms week for the bow, and I'm like, it's a bow. Sure, the mods make bows kind of crazy, but it's like, that's how I feel about it. And I'm not too crazy into farming them out now that we know that there's going to be multiple events, and then arms week literally brings out the entire seasonal plethora, and it rains. Like, you will get rained on by just playing that game mode. So it's almost pointless to even engage, especially if you have other games you would rather play. Engaging with arms week is absolutely fucking pointless. Like, 'cause when they do the big arms day or whatever I forgot. Crap. Sorry, I was pissing myself off. It's called Call to Arms. So you have Arms Week, then Call to Arms. That's what I meant. Sorry, I had to rectify myself because I was pissing myself off trying to figure it out. Yeah, Call to Arms that whole week just rains loot throughout this whole season. So it's almost like just wait for that and you'll get the weapons you want. It's just, that's how pointless it feels to grind for any of the shit, because you can just get it easy. I appreciate that because it does remove, like, gives you multiple opportunities to catch up, but I feel like it should have just been, I don't know, like, when all these events feel the damn same and all you're doing is adding new loot, it feels pointless, especially when some of this loot is just ass. But now this has set up a system where how much tier 5 loot you're getting, and if you're getting any at all, is all over the place. Let's go through what's going on here, assuming you're at least 450 now. In the portal, which needs to die, if you hit at least a rank in whatever, all your drops completion, bonus, and focus drops will be tier 5. In Crucible, any reasonable measure of performance, your drops will be tier 5, which is why it's so much better to just throw your matches and trials and not give a shit, right? Renegades, Lawless Frontier Extraction completion will give you all tier 5s with a chance of tier 5 shinies. Getting tier 5s at all requires maxing out one faction and activating the Spider upgrade. In Renegades, Invasion will give you all tier 5s provided you didn't get totally destroyed. In Renegades, gambling of any kind of currency is probably getting you 90% tier 4s with tier 5s, much more rare, shiny tier 5s being almost never seen. Yeah. Though I don't think the perk I hear is good, but like, you're not gonna lose out in any competition by not having that shiny version. You're just not. In the Renegades, the new Equilibrium dungeon will give you tier 3s and 4s unless you throw a number of feats to increase the drop. Yeah, this is where the problem is. It feels ass backwards, but that's like being a dead horse. Same thing with the raid, which is why these are probably outside of the dungeon. The raid is probably, I think even now, the epic raid is one of the most underplayed raids out there. But also in alerts are normal difficulty, fire team, arena ops plays that give you 3 to tier 4s, including its own potential special tier 5 shiny drop. This week, the Rocket Pulse, they are quite literally the easiest activities in the game right now. They are. Which I think this is fine. I think this should be where casuals get easy shit. And it's quarantined to just like a weekly, daily thing versus the whole game. I think, and I'm going to spitball, the game, first off, raids and dungeons should always give you guaranteed tier 5s. Doing extra challenges gives you tier 4s. They should always give you tier 4s, raids and dungeons. And then tier 5s have a higher chance to drop with a couple of feats. And then the more feats you add on, you get like the special origin trait or a special cosmetic that only can be received from doing these challenges, right? That's just my thought. Like, and then the rest of the game shouldn't be guaranteed 5s. It should be guaranteed tier 4s at a certain level. You shouldn't be rained on loot, and it should be a chance at tier 5. It should feel rare. I think that tier 5s should be as rare as exotics. I'm going to say it right there. They should be as rare as exotics. so that tier 4s are already going to be an upgrade from what we had in the previous before Edge of Fate. Like they're already an upgrade, right? Or they're at the same level, essentially. Tier 5s need to be like that sweet honey spot. So it gives people to give me a reason to keep farming. And it's minimalistic, and obviously for casuals, they won't care. But for the dedicated, those that are really wanting to grind, don't just make it a handout. This is the same shit we had in Destiny 2 year 1, where everything was just a handout and it literally killed any chase. It also didn't help that everything was a preset roll and not random roll. I think you get the point here. And the end result is that when tier 5s are so easy in a bunch of places, when they either have equivalent rewards for insanely hard content, Grandmaster, or new, more time-consuming challenges to the dungeon, it's frustrating to suddenly be thrown back to tier 3s. But these are expectations Bungie has set up. Yeah, it's ass backwards. The problem is you can't really go back, as something like the dungeon has shown. Tier 5s are power crept to the point where they can't possibly be more power crept. I take that back. They did it with shinies. I mean, it's not really that power crept. Like, people thinking that the shinies with the extra origin trait is power creeping. Yes, based on the term, it is power creeping, but not substantially compared to what Bungie has been doing to buffs. Let's just put this in comparison. The power creep of having a spicy origin trait versus buffing the warlock to decimate bosses with a grenade. Those are two different kinds of power creep. One is more acceptable and one literally just breaks the game, though one's really fucking fun. Let's be honest. One is really fucking fun and has made me kind of stop playing Titan. I know. There's a reason why I never did the Stronghold build that I wanted, like showcase. Plus everyone's doing it now. Strongholds, like, I did the heresy video that I jumped in. I was one of the first ones to pioneer flash counter. Not the first one to pioneer Stronghold. I don't own that. There's a whole channel for that does that. But flash counter, I was the first one to pioneer, one of the first ones to pioneer that. And I really spent my whole month grinding and playing with that and made a whole video that's one of my top viewed. And that's probably the only time I'll ever do a build video. And it was fun. But now everyone uses Strongholds. Everyone talks about Strongholds. Everyone knows about Strongholds. There's nothing new to talk about Strongholds, which is why I've not done a video about Strongholds or builds or anything or synergies. Nothing I can do can really shed more light than what has already been shedded. Plus, no one's going to want to use anything other than the lightsaber at this point, so it's pointless to talk about it. But I don't agree that they can't go back. They absolutely can. They can bump up dungeons, and then with a new expansion, they could say, hey, we're making tier 5s rare. And now everything's tier 4. Will you have people there angry? Absolutely. But guess what? You're going to have to bite the bullet some way or someplace anyways. And here's the deal. The reason why people wanted more gear to drop was to get past the excessive power progression up to fucking 550. Drop that shit down to like 300 or whatever, like a normal season. Dramatically reduce how many drops you get, like gear wise across the board. Like, and I'm not saying like power potential, like make the whole fucking game available for people to play. Like if I want to play old content, that will raise me up to the power pinnacle cap as well. But when it comes to new loot, generally don't just like throw it out the window. Like don't give me 5 or 6 drops and make it all pointless. Like make it tasteful, make it reasonable, make it logical for me to give a shit. But I think they need to detach the power grind and the loot grind, because when you put it together and then you get one pendulum where it's too stingy, and now it's too greedy where everyone has everything too quickly. That's why they need to decouple the power progression from the loot. Make the power progression anything in the game. Just play the game and you will naturally progress your power level. And then loot itself is very like Whether it's solo ops, a raid, or dungeon, the loot is equivalently the same. The quantity is going to be about the same. That's my thoughts. It's a looter game with a looter system that really does not make much sense now. I'm not sure where they go from here. Honestly, I just know what the problem is. Yeah, I mean, overall, I do think that that's my thing, is decouple the power progression from the loot chase, make the game accessible by letting you play the whole game for power, dramatically reduce every drop across the board except for maybe dungeon raids, right? Those have technically been how they have been since the beginning of the game, unless you do challenges and you get the extra loot. But doing a solo should only give you like a drop, and doing pinnacles should give you a drop or two. Doing PvP should give you a drop or two, and that's how it should be. It shouldn't be raining loot regardless and with zero effort. And here's the deal: you put very specific loot in very specific buckets. They kind of done that, but not. They need to be more strict. Where solo loot has its own loot. So if I do solo, I will never do pinnacle or raids or anything else, or fire team. And fire team has its own loot, and pinnacle has its own loot. I think fire team and pinnacle, if I remember, fire team and solo ops kind of share the loot, and then pinnacle ops, I feel like pinnacle ops needs to be dissected to where there's grandmaster loot only, and then there's like exotic loot only, and like exotic mission loot, and then these small like multi-team objectives, they should have their own loot. I know that's a lot of work, but you need to, instead of making it to where just play whatever the fuck you want and get the same loot, they need to put value in each bucket. Because when you just say, hey, do whatever, when you try to treat this MMO like it's a Fortnite customs game where you just choose a game and then you get what you want, it diminishes the value of the game overall, but also the loot. Like, that was the whole problem with Edge of Fate, with people farming solos. Like, why the fuck would I give a shit about that why should I do pinnacles when I can just do solo and level up as quickly as possible? But also the loot itself, there was only a couple things that people gave a shit about from pinnacles, the pulse rifle obviously, but I don't know. My thought, and this is it in the video. Here's my thought we should do the system that we should implement. If you're not going to take any of that, my advice about decoupling power and loot in general, we need to go to do what they did when we had Vanguard rep, or when we had Crucible rep, or the Gambit rep. We had faction rep. And we kind of have that with Renegades, kind of. With the factions, not so much. But the concept could be similar. First off, return the fucking reward track for each one of everything, like anything in the game, return that. I think everyone loved the reward track. That was fucking great. Easy way to get some materials and some extra gear. Return that shit back. One, because it wasn't just a handout. You actually had to invest and play game modes. Like Crucible didn't just rain loot. You actively had to level up and play the activity to get the engrams, to then you had to pay to focus in what you wanted. I thought that everyone pretty much liked that system because it wasn't just a handout, but you still had to grind for it. You still had to interact with it. Secondly, every time you leveled up one of these factions and reset your ranking, you got the ability to get a random third, fourth column perk, to which then you can enhance, right? And I think we should go back to that. We should go back to where you enhance it, not the game auto enhances. Unless you want to do a really spicy, rare drop where you could get a fully enhanced gun, like a shiny, right? I think put those in the game, right? But every time you level up a faction, like imagine Renegades. Renegades, every time you level up, there's like 5 nodes. You rank up, you rank up, you rank up. You're increasing your chances of getting a higher tier gun with multiple perks. Like you can get 3 perks in one slot, 3 perks in the other. They might be fully enhanced. One role might be enhanced, completely randomized, giving it the ability for you to continue to farm out. But you have to work for it. You actually have to invest in it. You're playing the game. And while you're investing and you're leveling up, you might get a good role that you could play with in the meantime while you're continuing to play. And if you're hyper aggressive, people were leveling up Crucible like it was nothing, like within a week or 2. If you're a casual, you'll take your time, but you'll still invest in it. Like it's good. It's the best for both worlds. You invest your time in it, you can still get the tier 5s or whatever you want to call them. I feel like that system was fantastic. I love that system. The vendor system was fantastic for the reward track that each one provided. You had currency that you were earning along with random rolls from engrams, but you could also focus them. And as you leveled up, you got more potential. The guns got stronger and better because you were able to unlock more perks. That's my thought. I feel like that should be applied to most of the whole game, right? You have a pinnacle vendor, you have a fire team vendor, like you're leveling up, you're investing, you're playing the game. You have a solo ops vendor, you're leveling up, you're leveling up. You're not just immediately getting tier 5s. You have to level up and get tier 5. Tiers are gone. It's all based on perks. Everyone has a basic unenhanced gun with 1 perk in a slot, and you're working your way up as you're leveling up your factions. That way there's no more this stupid shitty score system that you have to hope you get max A score to get the max. Like, remove all that bullshit no one cares about and make it about the effort that you put in is what you get for the final outcome of the reward. You're rewarded for your time and effort, not did I get a magical score that gives me all the tier 5s? Oh. And it's also not attached to your power level at all. It's completely decoupled from power progression, and it's based on effort. That's my thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. But I thought about this, and it's time to scrap the tier system for weapons. I think armor makes more sense because of stat brackets. But when it comes to perks, you don't fucking need a tier system. Throw that shit out the window. We already had the vendor system that was chef's kiss, in my opinion. Let me know what you think down below. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to game out.